so let's get started. Again, thanks to all for joining us for the Energy Advisor and Service Organization training on the FortisBC Step Code Incentive Program. Our agenda for today is as follows. First, we're going to cover the Energy Advisor and Service Organization requirements for participating in this program. Then we'll provide a broad brush summary of the Step Code incentives and the funds that are available. We'll also be paying very close attention to the eligibility for the program, so focusing on the building types, the ERS requirement, and on the different incentives that are available by region. Then we'll sort of dive deep into some of the administrative requirements for service organizations and energy advisors, and we'll do a review of the application forms and processes that are available for you online. In addition to the summary of the BC Energy Step Code incentives that are available, we'll cover the additional rebates that are available from FortisBC. And then to wrap up, we'll provide some tips on getting started and provide some additional tips on how you can support builders with this program. So the first thing we'd like to cover is some of the high-level program requirements, and we've sort of written them out in detail here. And it's important for all to know, both energy advisors and service organizations, that they'll be required to complete these following steps. And the first step is not so much to do with this webinar, but more to emphasize the importance that all energy advisors and service organizations have and/or gain a very solid understanding of the BC Energy Step Code. While the incentive program provides funds for the step code, there are many, many details involved in modeling for the step code that fall outside of the scope of this particular training. The second step is that all energy advisors and service organizations must review this FortisBC New Home Incentive Program training webinar, which is available now in a recording, and the PDF of the webinar will also be available. Then the third step, there's a short multiple choice quiz. It is an open book quiz. It's not meant to be tricky or trick anyone up, but more it's just meant to highlight some of the key elements of the program that Fortis and other stakeholders feel would benefit from others taking a short quiz and exam and verifying that they do understand the program. The resources to pass this quiz are this webinar, the program terms and conditions, where there's an image on the right, and the program website. It's super important that all stakeholders basically print out, learn, and understand the small print of these terms and conditions, as many of those small print factors are things that may catch up energy advisors and/or builders within this process. And then the fourth step is sort of on an ongoing basis to keep up to date with FortisBC incentive program, any changes that be made, and any additional changes that will be happening with the BC Energy Step Code requirements. Two key resources that you may already be familiar with are the BC Energy Step Code website and the FortisBC New Homes program, which has just been recently updated with all the information about this incentive program. So in summary, we're going to talk a little bit about the Step Code incentives that are available. This current program has been preceded by a few different rebate and incentive programs in the past. Many of you will recall in 2012, there was a program that provided incentives for homes built to EnerGuide 80, which was followed in 2016 by incentives that were provided for Energy Star for new homes. Now we have this 2018 program tied directly to the BC Energy Step Code. So the highlights of this program is that, of course, as named, it's to support the adoption of the BC Energy Step Code, and in doing so, it's designed to advance higher efficiency new construction. The ultimate beneficiaries are those homeowners who will enjoy lower energy bills, more comfortable and durable homes, and have better indoor air quality. And for most of us in British Columbia who experienced and some of us suffered the very smoky weather we had due to forest fires, better indoor air quality is something that many more consumers are more familiar with, unfortunately, than we had been in the past. The rebate structure of this program is directly aligned with the BC Energy Step Code. There's up to $8,000 available for Step 5, and with starting at step 2, the higher you go, the more funds that are available, rewarding energy efficiency. There's also $500 in ERS, Energy Advisor support available, and we'll go into some details on that in a moment. And there's a new online application process, which is really quite simple and easy to use, and much simpler than other application processes from other rebate programs in the past. So taking a peek at the incentives, and again, we'll go through each one of these in details. There's a range of incentives available, going up to $8,000. Step 2 is $1,000. And we'll also see that there's an Energy Advisor rebate. Part of that rebate is for the builder, the $400 that's available. And part of that is Energy Advisor support that goes to energy advisors for their role within the program. And we'll note, as of step 3, a builder may or may not receive that $400 rebate. And this is really important to note, and we'll provide multiple reminders. As per the star noted in the bottom, if the development is located in the City of Vancouver, or if that municipality has adopted step 3 or higher, the $400 rebate for the builder is not available. However, the $100 rebate is available for energy advisors regardless. Now, if a builder is building to step 3 or higher voluntarily and there is no requirement, then the $400 is available to that builder within that municipality. So in review of this again, there's $400 to the builder and $100 support goes to the energy advisor. There's only one energy advisor rebate support paid per dwelling or per unit. And typically this is paid both to the builder and the energy advisor within 90 days of the application. It's also important to note that there's no additional compensation provided for service organizations or energy advisors for providing any of these services related to the program. So when you're working with builders in different communities, there's a few different decision-making points. And one of those decision-making points is, has the municipality adopted the step code or not? The second is that builder going to work with an energy advisor or not? Because there are rebates available for builders that are not working with an energy advisor or building to the step code requirements. It's which step is required. Does, in the end, the building achieve that step they were targeting or required to target or not? And we'll notice here on this chart, in all cases, fireplace and dryer rebates are available, whether or not they work with an energy advisor or not, and whether or not they follow the step code path or not. There also are Energy Star appliance rebates, but those are only available for FortisBC Electric customers. And it is possible, it's only possible for builders to access the step code incentive or the hot water rebates. So if the builder's not working with an energy advisor, they can access the hot water rebates and the other rebates that are available. If they are working with an energy advisor, they can access the incentives for step 2 through 5 and these additional rebates. So looking at this step by step, for step 1, there is no rebate for the step code incentive. However, as long as the local government has not adopted the step code, the $100 for the EA and the $400 for the builder is available. If that builder builds in a community and achieves less than step 2, so it just achieves step 1, then they can access the hot water rebates and the additional rebates. However, if that builder has received some excellent advice from their energy advisor and has managed to build to step 2, 3, 4, or 5, even though they were not required to, they can then proceed and access the incentives for step 2, 3, or 5, and also access the additional rebates that are available as long as they are in the right service delivery territory, which we'll look at again a little bit later in the presentation. For step 2, the decision-making tree goes as follows. There's $1,000 available. It depends on whether or not they achieve their step 2 metric, whether or not what incentive they receive, or whether they actually go the route of just proceeding the hot water rebates or not. Moving along to step 3, this is where the case is if you're in the City of Vancouver or if the local government has already adopted a regulation for step 3, then there is no incentive of $2,000 available. Oh, sorry, there is no energy advisor support of $400 to the builder, but the $100 is paid to the EA. If they achieve the metrics, they proceed with step 3 incentives and the other incentives available. So in each step, it's important for energy advisors and builders to understand what is available, what happens if they work with an energy advisor or not work with an energy advisor, and that step 3 threshold for communities as they adopt it, that informs whether or not the $400 will be available to the builder as well. So if I go through each one of these would, for step 4, would get repetitive. It's the same process and decision-making tree about what's available to builders and to energy advisors. Where things change is at step 5. So if a builder is interested in accessing the step 5 rebate of $8,000, they must first contact the FortisBC New Homes program to get pre-approvals. And in the event that a local government had adopted step 5 and it was a requirement, there would be different incentives available. In most cases, and in the near-term future, all these incentives will be available for the energy advisor and the builder, as well as the $8,000, as long as they get pre-approval in advance. So again, here's a summary of the incentives that are available with the reminder about the City of Vancouver and the step 3 threshold. So let's take a look at the eligibility for the different building types and regions. So the core element of the eligibility for this is that it has to be a Part 9 residential building. So the detached and attached buildings, including those with secondary suites. And further to that is these buildings need to be eligible to be modeled by ERS energy advisors. And they need to be submitted to the service organization and to NRCan. So when you're thinking about criteria for this program, we're thinking about the same criteria for Natural Resources Canada puts on ERS files. Another very important factor is that both the space heating and the hot water have to be supplied by FortisBC. FortisBC is providing incentives as they're striving to achieve energy savings, and it's both the heat and hot water savings that allow them to provide this incentive. The building needs to be built by a licensed builder. It can't be a mixed unit, so it has to be residential. And those receiving this have to be under rate 1, which is the residential rate. And of course, as the incentive is tied to the BC Energy Step Code, it needs to meet the specifications of the Step Code. So if you don't pass on the Step Code, you don't get an incentive. Although this program is launching in the fall of 2018, building permits issued March 29th, 2018 or later can apply. So you may be working with builders already in the pipe that had received a building permit earlier or and about to construct or in construction that may be eligible for this program. A very important distinction for eligibility in this program is how it works with attached homes. So to access incentives for attached homes, being townhomes, row homes, homes must be evaluated by an ERS energy advisor. The file must be submitted to the service organization and NRCan, as with the other files, and each unit must be modeled following ERS procedures. And the energy advisor must provide the ERS homeowner information sheet and the ERS label. So for BC Energy Step Code compliance, a row home complex of 4 units has to be modeled as a whole building, as per guidelines that are in the works. But for the incentive, it must be modeled as a unit. So we know the builder saying is measure twice, cut once. In this particular scenario for the energy advisor, it's model twice. FortisBC cuts a check once. And the reason why FortisBC has put this requirement into place is that they want their program supported by the ERS procedures that have been put in place for modeling all homes within the program. They want the files to be subject to the service organization and NRCan quality assurance. And they want to support and promote the use of home energy labels through the EnerGuide rating system. So for energy advisors, working within this program on attached homes, this will be an additional cost to the builder for modeling as both as a building using the general mode and as an individual unit as per the ERS approach. However, the incentives that are available will help offset this cost, and the incentives that are available per unit are eligible for each unit. So if it's a unit of 4, they can access whichever incentive they are eligible for by unit, not as the building. So those additional incentives will help offset the cost for modeling in the 2 different approaches. So in terms of eligibility, the geographic areas, obviously they must be in the FortisBC natural gas, propane, or electric territories. I'm not going to go through all of the areas here. So there are the natural gas service areas, there's the combined areas of natural gas and electric, and there's electric service areas, and there's the propane service area of Revelstoke. There's a detailed map of all these areas available at this link that will go through it as well, where this map is from, with more information on the service delivery areas. So it's very important that energy advisors are familiar with this area. And in addition to the step code incentives, there are the additional rebates, which we'll summarize later, which some of them are only exclusively available in different service areas. So let's take a look at the application forms and processes. There are 3 different forms. There's a builder declaration form, there's a mid-construction registration form, and there's a final construction application form. There is the option for builders and energy advisors to apply at the final construction phase if a builder is just consulting or starts late and or is just consulting with you later in the game and you miss the mid-construction phase, but realize through the process that they would benefit from these incentives. You can enter at that later stage as well. The forms that are available online. There's about 3 or 4 steps per form. And the recommendation provided is to make sure you have all your documents ready to upload and to provide before you get started. And the preferred upload formats are PDF, although there are other acceptable formats as well. Like other online forms, there is the option for energy advisors to get started, stop for any given reason, save it, have an email link to yourself to the form, and then pick it back up later. So going into the forms, let's take a look at the builder declaration. And this isn't a new type of form, and a really important one for energy advisors to understand, because what it does is it grants legal permission for the energy advisor to act as the builder's agent. That means you'll be signing applications on their behalf, and you may be providing information to FortisBC on behalf of the builder. So it allows FortisBC to treat the energy advisor and or the service organization as if they were the applicant. And generally this would be submitted with a mid-construction registration and or later if you're applying later in the process. So it's really important that all stakeholders read and understand this document in advance, as you may need to explain this to builders when you get started in the process. And all energy advisors do need to understand their responsibilities by using this document. And what this document does is essentially really facilitates the ability of the program to work with and get information for energy advisors and help process files and move things along. Then there's a mid-application process, the mid-construction form. The EA will go online and register the project at the link provided, which is also available on the FortisBC New Homes website, and they'll provide their basic information about the project, the BC Energy Compliance Report, and the EnerGuide P file report with the homeowner information sheet. We'll take a look at this application form in just one second. So here's what it looks like here. Again, a very simple form. Once you have the information at hand, you probably have them on your files already. The first one is the builder information. We won't go into too much detail on this, as it's fairly self-explanatory. The second form is the building information. So obviously the type of building, the number of dwellings, the unit numbers, the development name, the property address, the date of the building permit, and the building permit number. In this particular case, you would also identify whether a mid-construction blower door test was completed and or not. There's no requirement for mid-construction blower door tests, although as all energy advisors and service organizations know, there are multiple occasions, particularly with new builders to this process, where we highly recommend mid-construction blower door tests. This next part of the mid-construction force has another agreement. Basically, here it will tell you whether or not the builder has accepted the mid-construction blower door test or if the builder has waived that. There's a requirement to upload the EnerGuide P report, and that P report is essentially the homeowner information sheet. And this is the sheet that you needs to going through ERS mode. You can't produce this in the general mode of HOT 2000. So that is the report that is being referred to when we talk about the EnerGuide P report. In here, identify the step code target proposed, and you upload your pre-construction BC energy compliance report. This would be the same report that would be provided to the local government to verify that the BC Energy Step Code requirements for whichever step they're searching, in this case 3, has been achieved. We're unable to finish, press here, save my progress and resume later. You'll be sent a link and you can pick it back up later. And the final element of this report, or not the final, next to final element of this report is the energy advisor name. You'll notice here there's drop-down menus. FortisBC will be including a drop-down menu of all energy advisors that are participating within the program. So if your name, Joe Advisor, is not on this list, you wouldn't be able to submit a file to this program. You'd also enter your energy advisor ID and your service organization. If you're an energy advisor that works with multiple service organizations, your energy advisor ID and service organization name should be listed as the one you are currently submitting this particular file through. Service organizations will also all be listed on this drop-down menu, and in both cases, the service organization needs to have an agreement, which we'll speak to later with Fortis. In this particular case, the energy advisor would have needed to complete this training webinar and the orientation quiz. There'll also be a drop-down menu with FortisBC representatives that'll be working by different areas, and you'll be provided with information with that. And then there's a legal declaration. This is essentially a repeat and more information as per the builder declaration that the energy advisor would have signed. So that's the mid-construction. A few simple steps to be able to put that together. Very similar information is provided in the final construction report. It's the as-built BC Energy Compliance Report, the end file, again, the homeowner information sheet, and the EnerGuide label. Again, the first component of this report is basic information about who's working on it, the energy advisor name, service organization you're working for, the builder, the FortisBC representative. Again, more information about the development is on the second phase of this sheet. This would be all information you would have put into your first form, so it should be very easy for you to complete. And in this one, there's also verification that it's either natural gas or electricity, and this would be an eligible file depending on the FortisBC service delivery area. So this is important information from Fortis to verify that this home is actually using electricity and or natural gas supplied by FortisBC. And in this particular case, you're uploading the EnerGuide N report, uploading the label, and then you're providing the BC Energy Compliance Report information. This would be information that you'll get off the BC Energy Compliance Report or from the calculator. And this, as the step code metrics change into the future, the information on this form will be changing as well. And this is also where you upload your BC Energy Compliance Report. In all cases here, particularly where there's an ERS rating percentage lower than, you only enter numbers, don't enter the percentage lower than. If it was 30 or 40% lower than, just enter 30 or 40 rather than 30 or 40%. And then the last stage of the final application is whether there's other optional measures that were applied for. And we'll go over some of those, the optional rebates that are available at the end of the presentation. For all applications, whether it be the Step Code Incentive application, the gas appliance rebates, the electrical appliance rebates, the heat pump rebate, or the energy advisor support, all of them you need to apply within 6 months of an occupancy permit being issued for the development. So for energy advisors who are submitting this on behalf of the builder, that's a very important date to pay attention to, 6 months after an occupancy permit has been issued. And of course, ideally earlier. As a builder, I'm sure would be happier to receive their funds earlier in the process. So let's take a look at some of the requirements for energy advisors and service organizations. As service organizations know, and some energy advisors may know, all service organizations are required to have an agreement between FortisBC and said service organization. And there's a lot of different small print elements within that agreement, and we're not going to go over all of them. A few of the important ones that are also important for energy advisors to know is that the service organization needs to maintain a list of energy advisors working with their organization who meet the requirements for this program. They need to be able to provide that so Fortis can make a list available for public disclosure as they decide to, and to keep FortisBC updated if any changes to the list. So if one of your energy advisors decides to move to the Caribbean or Europe, we need to let FortisBC know that they've decided to make such a nice move. It also, very importantly, makes a few different representations and warranties. By including the energy advisor in the list, and this is, I think, part and parcel of registering an energy advisor and having them work with your service organization, that service organization is essentially endorsing that energy advisor. The service organization also has to make sure that the energy advisor has provided in writing authorization that they're able to provide information to the service organization and NRCan about that energy advisor. And also, very importantly, it warrants that in the service organization's professional opinion, that energy advisor possesses the qualifications, skills, knowledge, experience, and expertise necessary to work within this program and model to the BC Energy Step Code. So these are some important things that says for a service organization to be very aware of. We are responsible for energy advisors that work with us, with our organizations, even though they're independent consultants and businesses. Also within this SO agreement, that it makes clear that at the request of FortisBC, they remove the name of any energy advisor or service organization from the list of EAs or SOs that are able to perform services for this incentive program. Well, we won't go into detail about this, but it's important for service organizations and energy advisors to know that service organizations are required to have the appropriate levels of insurance. And it's also important that either the energy advisor has its own workers' compensation or the service organization needs to cover that for them. And that's the process, and how that works is a business decision between the service organization and its energy advisors. But it's important that all energy advisors are covered one way or another through the service organization or through personal optional protection. Within this agreement also too, and within this program, there are a certain number of energy advisor qualifications that are requirements. And I think some of these are standard and put in place by NRCan, and some of them are for this program. One is obviously that all energy advisors need to be registered in good standing with NRCan. They need to work with a service organization. They need to have successful completion of this incentive training and the orientation quiz. And in the future, if any third-party trainings are made available and recommended or required for energy advisors about the BC Energy Step Code, those are courses that both the service organization and the energy advisors should take as well. Of course, just as all energy advisors are required, we need to work within NRCan's requirements. That's the code of ethics, the various policies and procedures that are put in place. And into the future, as and if any other additional energy advisor requirements are put in place by the BC Energy Step Code, all energy advisors working in this program will need to follow those as well. As a summary of the energy advisor services that may be provided within this program, there's the mid-construction blower door test, which is recommended but not required. And in this case, they should be implemented in accordance with the ERS technical procedures. There's the pre and post construction home evaluations. Again, implement in accordance with NRCan procedures. And then it's also the energy advisors or potentially the service organization, depending on how this functions with the company you work with, to complete the mid-construction application and the final construction application for the program. The documentation you need to submit to support those applications are the builder declaration, the BC Energy Compliance Report, be it pre-construction or as-built, homeowner information sheets for the P&N file, and the ERS label. Throughout this process, FortisBC also wants to accentuate that the energy advisors and service organizations are acting as the liaison between FortisBC and the program participants to facilitate successful completion of the program. Now, in addition to the BC Energy Step Code incentives that we spoke to earlier, there are a range of different additional rebates that some of them have been in market for some time. Here is the chart that is available on the FortisBC website. And it shows again the Step Code incentive starting at step 2, 1,000, going to 8,000 at step 5, and the energy advisor rebate that may be available to the builder and advisor moving all the way up. There are also, which we'll go into in a moment, high efficiency water heater rebates, appliance rebates, heat pump hot water rebates, and Energy Star appliance rebates. Now, we'll quickly go through some of these as well. On some of these, what we always recommend is that the energy advisors working in this area familiarize themselves with these rebates so that in addition to speaking to the builders about the Step Code incentive rebates, which requires your services, you can also help builders to identify that they may be eligible for these incentives, and where possible, if you so decide, helping them fill out those applications. It's not your requirement to fill out those applications, but energy advisors providing a good service can help builders find the right rebate applications and potentially help them through that process. So there are a range of gas appliance rebates here. I won't go through them all, of varying amounts. All of the details about these incentives are available, and the application forms are available at the FortisBC New Homes website. Almost in all cases, they're only available for residential customers, rate 1. And some incentives are available with a step code incentive, and some are not. In the case of the water heating rebates, you can do one or the other, step code incentives or the water heating rebates. Within this, there are different maximums for different products available. So in the case of gas fireplaces, it's 5 rebates per dwelling. Gas dryers, it's up to 2 per dwelling. In each of these incentives, there's different documentation requirements that need to be provided in addition to the incentive form. These are all available with details on the form. So for energy advisors helping builders, knowing and understanding these forms and the documentation requirements is very important. There's also a range of electric appliance rebates, as noted here in the orange chart. It's very important to note that these electric appliance rebates are available for FortisBC and municipal electric customers only, for purchases made with between March 29, 2018 and December 31st, 2019. There are certain qualifying makes and models that are eligible. That's available on this website here, the FortisBC.com appliances. And depending on the appliance, there's different numbers that are available. Again, the program applications are very comprehensive and provide all the information that is required to be provided with the application. Also, an electric appliance rebate is sort of the heat pump water heater rebate that is available for FortisBC and municipal electric customers only on the similar timelines. And there's an additional spot where you can find out about qualifying models. So if you are advising builders, well, whether or not you are putting this application in on their behalf, it's important that energy advisors understand the qualifying types of heat pump water heaters that are available, so builders can make sure they don't miss out on this $1,000 rebate. So some tips for getting started, again, to rephrase what we spoke to earlier. For all energy advisors and service organizations that would like to participate in this program, they need to understand the program, and they can do that by watching this webinar or reviewing the PDF version, reviewing the FortisBC New Homes website, so really reading and understanding these terms and conditions for the program, completing the program qualification quiz, and some of the questions in the quiz do highlight some of the elements of the terms and conditions that are very important to understand so that energy advisors can successfully work with builders to get them into this program. And then also it's very important for energy advisors to keep up to date on which communities have adopted the STEP code and which step they've adopted. There's different incentives available for builders depending on the steps that have been adopted or not adopted. It's important that you track this, as this will be something that's changing, potentially monthly over time. Right now there's 28 local governments that have either adopted or are now consulting on the BC Energy Step Code, and we anticipate that number will grow over time. That information is available at the BC Energy Step Code website, this address here. So in terms of supporting builders, there's a range of things service organizations and energy advisors can do. As soon as you're able, we recommend that you inform your builder clients about this new incentive program. You can send them links and information to the FortisBC New Homes website. Recommend that they familiarize themselves with it, and or if you have this relationship with your builder, that you provide the summary review for them. Of course, offer your modeling services and support them with program applications. You can explain your energy advisor role within this in terms of the builder declaration, and that you will and can submit the applications on their behalf. And then onward and forward, you will continue to proceed to provide fantastic energy advisor services. In terms of the builder benefits, I think all energy advisors understand the builder benefits of incentive programs. The first and foremost is the financial support in terms of up to $8,000 that's available to help offset the costs of energy efficient new construction. There's also the benefit of the $400 energy advisor support to offset your costs for providing services. And then of course there's the $100 that goes to energy advisors to support your time for supporting the application process. The program, as linked to the BC Energy Step Code, is designed to provide both flexibility and consistency. A builder building to Step 3 can access the Step 3 incentives and meet their Step 3 requirements for the BC Energy Step Code all in one process. And that's the way this program has been designed, to make sure that builders that are required to participate in a program and or are joining on to build to Step Code levels can also follow the same process for the incentive program. So if you do have any questions about this, you can send them directly to the new home at fortisbc.com email address. You can also put any questions you may have now into the questions bar, and then those will be responded to either now and or in a follow-up email depending on the question. Again, we remind you that the FortisBC New Homes website has all of the information that you may be looking for, and all registered participants of this webinar will be sent a recording, a PDF version of that webinar, and a link to the quiz that you can take in the near future to verify your participation within this program. The quiz is open book. You can take it as many times as needed. It's not designed to be a tricky quiz. It's more designed to be a verification that someone's checked out the terms and conditions and the details about the program. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to just check one moment here with my colleague and see whether we'll be answering some questions now and or sending out questions after the fact. One moment, please. Thank you for those that have hold it on. We have checked out some of the questions, and one of my colleagues has been responding to them online as we go through, so your questions may have already been responded to. And additional questions that are have been made, we will be consulting with FortisBC and responding in writing, just so to ensure that we are providing a correct and accurate and fulsome response to your questions. So thank you very much. You can still enter questions in to the webinar here, and we will ensure that those are responded to in the very near future, and or if this is at a later date, we'd recommend that you write the new home at fortisbc.com to answer various questions or put your questions ahead about the program. Thank you again for your time and participating in this webinar today. Stay tuned for an email with all of the follow-up documentation.